faculty and staff, and esteemed members of the Georgia Tech community. Assalamu alaikum. I begin with the Islamic and universal greeting. May peace and blessings be on all of you. We are all in need of peace during these times. My name is Renee Al-Nubani, and I am the president for the Muslim Students Association here at Georgia Tech. We are gathered here today, not just as members of the Muslim Students Association, and not just as students and members of the Georgia Tech community, but we are gathered here today as compassionate human beings, united in our empathy and concern for the ongoing humanitarian crisis in Palestine and Gaza. Behind me are the faces of some of the children that have been killed. We are here to honor and remember them and all of those who have unjustly lost their lives. As a Palestinian American, I have been deeply affected and shaken to my core more than you will ever know. Every story of loss, every image of destruction, every cry for help resonates with me on a profoundly personal level. Yet, over the last several weeks, our community has come together in a way I've never experienced before. And it has truly been inspiring and given me much hope. I thank you all for the continuous strength and support you give, and I thank all of those who have joined us today in a beautiful and incredible show of support and solidarity. For those of you that were expecting President Cabrera to be among us today to support our community, I learned just yesterday that he has made the decision not to attend our memorial. However, we appreciate all of the faculty and staff, including Dr. Hong, who are here today to support our community. So thank you to those people. Sorry. We join together today to mourn the loss of all innocent lives killed during this period of senseless violence. We express our deep sorrow at the genocide taking place in Gaza, wherein an international community that once proclaimed never again is the same community that is idly watching another genocide unfold before its very eyes, an indelible moral stain on the world's collective conscience. Over the last 5 weeks, the Israeli government has justified its own security failings by perpetrating a horrific humanitarian catastrophe in Gaza. In his resignation letter, the former UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, Craig Mokaber, described the slaughter of the Palestinian people as, quote, a textbook case of genocide. The Israeli defense minister called Palestinians human animals, with similar rhetoric being echoed by soldiers in the Israeli Defense Forces and officials at the highest level of the Israeli government, to dehumanize Palestinians in their futile attempt to justify a genocide. The Israeli government has dropped over 25,000 tons of explosives on Gaza, exceeding the explosive power of 2 nuclear bombs. Protected zones such as schools, hospitals, ambulances, and densely populated refugee camps all have been deliberately bombed by Israeli airstrikes. I ask, where is the outrage of the international community that once proclaimed never again? As of today, more than 11,000 people have been murdered, including over 4,600 children, over 198 healthcare workers, and over 41 journalists, all of whom are classified as protected persons under international law. The Israeli government has illegally and completely cut off water, food, fuel, electricity, and medical supplies from Gaza, resulting in a dire humanitarian crisis that has left 2.3 million people on the brink of starvation. More recently, Israel started cutting off internet and cellular communication, preventing the world from seeing the intensifying bombardments and massacres taking place. The shortage of fuel and medical supplies, along with the Israeli government's bombardment, have resulted in the shutdown of almost half of Gaza's hospitals. Additionally, the Israeli government ordered 1.1 million people in northern Gaza to evacuate, And as they left, Israeli warplanes proceeded to bomb the very routes it told Palestinians were safe to travel on. It is important for us to remember that the recent escalation did not occur in a vacuum. Everything must be understood and analyzed within a larger context. The genocide currently occurring in Gaza did not materialize out of the blue. It is the culmination of decades of efforts to displace and dehumanize Palestinians. Israel has implemented a system of apartheid against Palestinians and subjugated them to constant daily oppression for the past 7 decades. Some of our Palestinian students and faculty have been directly affected by the ongoing realities in Palestine and the current genocide in Gaza. They live with a daily uncertainty and fear for their safety of their loved ones, all while carrying the burden of their academic responsibilities. They share stories of remarkable resilience amidst unbearable loss. They speak of relatives who, despite the unspeakable atrocities they face, continue to find ways to celebrate life's small joys. They recall the moments of communities coming together in the face of adversity, of people sharing what little they have left with their neighbors, and of the unwavering hope amidst despair of the Palestinian people. As the president of the Muslim Students Association, and as a member of the Georgia Tech community, and as a Palestinian, I urge each and every one of you to research and learn about not only what's going on today, but what has been going on in Palestine for decades. As members of one of the most prominent universities in the world, it is our responsibility to educate ourselves and to be on the front lines advocating for justice. I urge all of you to join those raising awareness about the situation in Gaza and to be a voice for the Palestinian people. Let this gathering be a testament to our unwavering resolve to stand up against injustice, to fight for peace, and to uphold the dignity of every human being. We salute the Palestinian people for their unwavering resilience in the face of such cruelty. Their determination and perseverance remains a source of inspiration to all of us during this dark stain on human history. We salute the Palestinian journalists, the health workers, and civil defense rescuers that risk their lives every day for their community. We salute and honor all of those who have been unjustly killed, including those whose names are written on the posters displayed and the ones that you have written yourselves, and of the pictures that are shown behind me. Thank you all for your presence today, for your compassion, and for your commitment to a just and peaceful world. I now ask Brother Zubair Zafar, who is our chaplain for the Muslim Students Association, to give short remarks and a dua, and then we will continue reciting the names of the people that have been killed for the next 5 hours. Thank you.
Bismillah, alhamdulillah, salatu wassalam ala rasulillahi sallallahu alayhi wasallam. In the name of God, the most gracious, the most merciful, all praises are due to Allah, and special peace and blessings upon Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, his companions and his followers. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Let's go a little bit louder. We need to show Cabrera what he missed out on. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. There you go. I have to tell you, I'm not going to spend too much time talking about someone who's not here, but I am really disappointed that he isn't. There is no difference of opinion. It doesn't matter about your political ideology. There is no one on earth, no one in the news, no one on any political side that is not saying that these 11,000 people were innocent. Everyone acknowledges that they're innocent. Everyone acknowledges that they had a right to life. Everyone acknowledges that their death is martyrdom. Everyone acknowledges that they died needlessly. And for anyone to say that it's controversial for us to grieve the death of 10,000, 11,000 innocent lives has lost their humanity. Anyone who says it's controversial for us to mourn the death of 4,000 plus children has lost their soul. 11,000 people, not just names on a banner, families, people with hopes, dreams, ambitions. 11,000 people who watched Marvel movies and who are waiting for the second season of Wednesday. 11,000 parents who last month sent their first grader, their second grader, their third grader for their first day at school who are now dead. 11,000 students who are planning their careers, planning to become doctors, engineers, lawyers, journalists, who are preparing for their final exam, who are now dead. 11,000 students who went to school hoping that their crush would finally see them. 11,000 people who were couples and who were planning their weddings this fall, this spring, this summer, that are now dead. Anyone who finds that controversial has lost their soul. Anyone who is finding that controversial has lost their humanity. Anyone who thinks that this genocide is okay is lost, and we don't care if they're not here. But in Islam, we don't pity our martyrs. We don't pity them, we envy them. These 11,000 people, and better, the 2.2 million Palestinian people, we envy them because they've taught us what courage looks like. They've taught us what it means to look an oppressor straight in their face and to not even blink or flinch. Because they've taught us what it means to be resilient, what it means to have endurance and strength no matter what you're facing, and to stand between two options, death and ethnic cleansing, and choosing death. And we envy them because of their rank with Allah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, لا تحسبن الذين قتلوا في سبيل الله أمواتا. That don't think that those who have died in the cause of Allah are dead. بل أحياء. Rather, they are alive. عند ربهم يرزقون. With their Lord, they are being provided. At the Battle of Uhud, the Prophet ﷺ and the Sahaba lost so many Muslims. Muslims that were their brothers, that had families, that had hopes and dreams, and were facing an enemy that too wanted their genocide. And the Sahaba were so heartbroken in burying their dead, in seeing that their families, their brothers, their sisters are being put into mass graves because they have nowhere else to go. And the Prophet ﷺ offered them some comfort. And he said to them that don't, just like I said, just like the Quran said, that our martyrs are not dead, but rather they are with their Lord. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes these 11,000 souls, takes their soul and puts them in the body of a green bird. And until the day of judgment, they are in paradise. And that their nests are sitting in the chandeliers that are hanging off the throne of Allah Himself. That those 11,000 souls who have passed away are not dead, but rather they are with Allah. And that they are being provided from His providence. And that they get to sit under the throne of Allah Himself. And when Allah asks them, is there anything more you want? And the Prophet ﷺ said that anyone who enters into paradise will not want anything from this world ever again. That what they get there is so amazing that they would have never wanted to return for the best of this life except the martyrs. That the martyrs are the only ones who will ask Allah to send them back to this life just so they can give their life again. This is the rank of these 11,000 people. This is the rank of 4,000-5,000 children who had no choice in the matter, who are now dead, but with Allah, their rank is unmatched. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He accepts the death as martyrs. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He heals the sick. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He replaces the fear and the tyranny with security and safety and strength. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He continues to give our Palestinian brothers resilience and strength and courage. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He gives us, we ask God that He gives us strength and that He gives us courage and that He gives us the endurance and resilience to stand for truth no matter what and to stand against falsehood no matter what. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. If you don't know what this means, it means peace upon you. It is the main greeting that we use in Arabic and Islamic countries. We all must work toward peace, and we really believe in peace. My name is Ghassan Al-Rigib. I'm a faculty member, and I am really honored to really participate in this memorial today. Thank you for being here. That means a lot to all of us. And I'm really proud of our student body who really have been organizing these events to really educate our community at Georgia Tech. I am from Gaza. My wife is from Gaza. And allow me to read from the paper as I communicate with you today. So for many years, we have not been able to visit family in Gaza due to the blockade by both the Egyptian and the Israeli governments. There is only one crossing for us to go through, and that's between Gaza and Egypt. It's called the Rafah crossing. It gets opened, but at random times. And the lack of consistency made it very difficult for us to plan a visit among all the other responsibilities that we have in here. So I want to take you back to many years ago, and I recall spending time with the family of a friend of my father. The friend was a fisherman. We used to live the life of fishermen for a few days every summer when school was out. Between the freshly caught fish, the amazing olive oil we produced from our own farms, and the vegetables we used to plant, the meals during those days were from a different planet. I still miss that amazing taste. But the gathering together, the excitement about the fishermen coming back in the morning on their boats made the whole experience and eventually made the taste very special. Let us forward to 1994. Right before the Palestinian Authority was planning to come back to Gaza and the West Bank per the Oslo Accords. People in Gaza were all talking about how Gaza would be a second Singapore. That's the term they used. We will be the second Singapore in the Middle East. They were talking about a busy port, a bustling airport, and the many goods they plan to export, such as roses, citrus fruits, figs, olives, olive oil, almonds, and many other things. That image has been imprinted in my mind for a future Gaza. Fast forward to almost 3 decades later, and the reality is extremely different. The only airport near Rafah that operated for a very short period of time, was hit in one of the attacks Israeli launched on Gaza years back. The port was never built because there was no real intention by Israel to create a port for Palestinians in the first place. As it became evident later on, even fishing is limited to a certain distance, and many fishermen get shot on a weekly basis, but that doesn't make it into the news. They get shot by the Israeli boats. One of our farmlands, my family farmlands, my father's farmland, is located near the borders. It got hit many times, and almost half of it, an entire valley in that large land, has not been farmed in many years, because it's part of a zone dictated by the Israeli offensive forces as the no man's zone for security reasons. We used to have many olive trees and almond trees in that land. I was told the trees are still there, but with no care for them, they haven't been doing very well, as you imagine. The trees are waiting for us to go back and take care of them. In reality, the trees are guarding the place until Palestine is freed from all the killings, freed from all the nonsense, and free from the Zionism. Every time there was a war, and it's really continuously there was a war, although not always made to the news, we, my wife and I, and family embraced for the wars. On a regular basis, we lose a couple of relatives here and there because human lives in Gaza are not valued. They have been called human animals by the Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant. A house that belongs to a close family usually gets hit every now and then, but every single time the houses get rebuilt, the family with the killed families member get back on their feet, and life always went on. I'm afraid the worst is here. The war that's happening right now is like no other. It's a genocide. And let me share with you a story. My mother, who is really older than Israel itself, she was born 40 years before Israel was established. So my mother was telling me how she and her family survived in the 1956 war. At the time, she was a kid, and they had to flee their houses toward the beach to avoid and to escape the airstrikes and the falling bombs on their houses. And again, the same story. Even 1956, the target was Palestinian fighters and Egyptian soldiers, because Egyptian soldiers were really fighting in that war as well. She recalled how they had to drink their own urine to survive because there was no water and no food. The war then didn't last for long, but this war nowadays, this genocide, has lasted for very long, almost 40 days today. Israel was given the green light by the US and the Western European governments, especially Germany, France, Britain, and Italy. And really they got the green light to do whatever they want, regardless of the international laws. And we have been witnessing that on live TV. They have demolished hospitals, churches, mosques, schools, and many, many, many houses, all on live TV. This hysteria is not a reaction, but a syndrome of a more serious character deeply imprinted in the mindset of the Israeli governments, which is that killing the other is the only path forward in their views. They have failed for 75 years to wipe Palestinians out. They know they have failed. They know that Palestinians over many generations have survived simply because they have a just cause. Rooting injustice has become the mission of every Palestinian. Regardless of how long it takes and how many houses we have to rebuild, this war makes us all determined toward peace. This is a defining moment at a global scale. Check the number of people around the globe taking their protests to the streets. In DC alone 2 weeks ago, we witnessed more than 300,000 protesters marching in Washington, DC. And I will remind you that we reside in Atlanta. Just behind me, we have couple of miles to get to the Civil Rights Museum. Over there we stand next to, and we get inspired by giants from the civil movement. We should learn from their struggles and achievement. Malcolm X in the 1964 speech, and I quote, he said the following: "The Palestinian struggle is not just a cry for justice. It's a blistering battle for the most fundamental human rights that every living soul on this planet should inherit by birthright. It's an unyielding resistance against the oppressive, suffocating grip of occupation and the callous denial of the most basic human dignity, just as the civil rights movement in the United States fought against the chains of racial discrimination, so too do the Palestinian people." End of quote. Many Gazans had lost a piece of themselves in this war and in the years before. The guilt, the pain, the trauma is there. Gaza will never be forgotten. And there is a saying that my daughter keeps repeating, which says the following: "If Israel deserves a minute of silence, Gaza deserves the world to never speak again." What Gaza families are going through right now is unimaginable. It's horrific to think about. They live in constant fear. They live with heavy hearts, knowing that people they have are dead, and actually they are waiting to die themselves. Communication with my relatives has been very sparse at best. In the last few calls with cousins and relatives, they all were making us calmer while we could hear the sounds of explosions in the background over the phone. They have this sense of calmness that has been soothing for us, who follow the bombings from thousands of miles away. The last call I had was with my cousin, who is a young professor at the university over there, and he was carrying his very young child in his lap. In that phone call, he told me that all they need is for us to pray for their safety and for him to die before he witnesses the death of his kids. I haven't heard from him since then, and my other cousins haven't heard from him yet. I pray that I will hear his voice again, together with his kids. What Israel is doing is sickening, and the world needs to wake up. This is against humanity, and I quote my daughter again, who's really a talented writer. This is not just. People in Gaza are on their own right now. They are the strongest people on the face of this earth. They are staying strong no matter what the circumstances are. No matter that we have no help, Gaza will never be forgotten. One day the people there will wake up to birds instead of bombs. One day it will be like it was before the occupation and the harsh rule they were out under for so long. One day Palestine will be free, Palestine will be free. I conclude with a sentence from MIT's professor Naomi Chomsky, who said, quote, "Nobody is going to put truth into your brain. It is something that you have to find out for yourself," end of quote. And I have asked for you, as a member of this community. We educate students, and we are very proud of the students that we have in here, and the staff and the faculty members as well. My ask is, please find the truth. It's not that hard to find the truth nowadays. Once you find the truth, spread the truth. It is your obligation as a human being to spread the truth. And for those who are citizens of this nation, please call your elected officials and demand a ceasefire. And demand basically our tax money goes to the right purpose, to our nation, not to really fuel a genocide. Be on the side of humanity. Every human deserves to live freely and in dignity. People in Gaza deserve to live in peace, a dignified life, a free life. It's about time for them to enjoy such a life. And thank you.